I'm Jim Ziegler, and this is the Dog Pound. Music. Okay.
We gotta get music.
Okay. The curmudgeon's not with us today. Max is absent. Nobody to pick on Bobbie. We'll
God
try to
forbid.
make up for that. So, anyway, I'm Jim Ziegler. This is the Dog Pound. And today we have a special guest, Don Hall from Virginia Auto Dealers Association. Hello, Don.
Hello, Jim. It's good to see you and all your friends today, and as well as your listening audience.
Well, the listening audience is second to none. We still have, I got to think of it, the Empress of Executive Management.
Yes, I know. It's a mouthful of a title, but it's because I do a lot of things.
The Empress of Executive Management, one of the most brilliant women in the car business, my friend Jennifer Briggs. Hi, kid.
Hey, Jim. I thought that we were going to cover all the awesome stuff that was in automotive news this week, so I'm prepped and ready.
Oh, I am so ready. I'm so ready. And the Duchess of Productivity.
Well, it's definitely productivity today. I've been like a multitasking fool today. So I've had moments where I've had three calls at the same time today. So it's whoop whoop. Here we go.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I have a friend in the Speakers Association, Dan Thurman, and he's a juggler amongst other things. And the way he learned to juggle 6 balls at the same time is he tried 7.
You gotta go. You gotta go all the way to the point where you drop your balls, and then that's your max. That's the part.
Oh, where's Matt?
We're not going to drop our balls. We're not going to drop our balls today. Okay, and the Queen of BDC.
I know, right?
Bobbie Herron.
I'm so proud of you right now. Good job.
I'm cracking myself up.
I'm experiencing, I think, a little bit of a Wi-Fi lag. So for anybody watching us, if I'm making weird faces when people are talking and you're like, wow, she feels that way. Let's not use my face as radar today.
Experiencing a Wi-Fi lag. I think it might be just yours.
No, that's what I mean. I mean, for me, I'm at the dealership today and it's a little chaotic. So looks like my lips are moving differently than when I'm actually saying things.
Okay, so you're at a dealership and you're working in the dealership today. Today's subject is whatever comes to mind. We have nothing in particular to talk about. Miss Briggs, current events. What struck you? I know you were reading Automotive Snooze.
I was reading Automotive Snooze, and I thought that probably one of the top articles you might want to talk about is that Ford is now shifting their builds to hybrids over EV demand. In this week's article or this week's issue, I think it was on like page 4 or 5, but I thought that was quite interesting. I mean, not that it's unexpected.
Ford is shifting to what?
Hybrid builds over EVs on certain models. So
can I get a duh in the house?
what I got out of that article was Jim Farley is going to go on a tour again. You remember he went on a tour in a EV Lightning a while back.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy's been photographed more than Elvis. I'm telling you, he is all full of Jim Farley. So now he's doing visits to the dealerships to listen to dealers. He wants their output. Excuse me, Ford, excuse me. Quality's down, prices are up. What else you need to know?
Yeah, well, I think they maybe should have done that before they were forcing some of these EVs and all of these upgrades on dealers across the country that we've seen in the last year and a half. I think as we do see, right, the share values dropping and the profits are not there, it is smart. And like April said, duh. I mean, we've been talking about that. Offer the hybrid option. So what I'm wondering though, because I know there's still some of these EV truck orders unfilled. Does that mean they're never going to be filled? That's what I wonder.
Well, hopefully so. Don Hall, what is the current issue that's just nagging at the VADA, Virginia Auto Dealers? What is the nagging issue?
Well, nothing is nagging because they're all opportunities to solve problems. So nothing is nagging, if you will. So let's solve a problem. Let me make a general statement. I always appreciate talking about EVs and hybrids. In fact, I actually drive an EV. It's all wrapped. It says, go to your local dealer to buy your EV today. Part of it is just sort of walking the talk and leading from the front, if you will. Now, I also drive a gas car too, as you would expect. But part of the problem is this. The manufacturers, Farley and many others, unfortunately, because elections have consequences, fell into the trap and mistake of, rather than standing their ground and making great statements about the reality of buying and selling and manufacturing and infrastructure and so forth, they equivocated to the administration, the current administration, because it was just easier to do it, less blowback, and so forth. And so we are now, all of us in this industry now are impacted based on decisions being made out of Washington, D.C. And in many states, like Virginia, many of us are what we call CARB states, California Air Resource Board. Yes, California makes the exclusive decision as it pertains to types of cars we drive in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Incredible. Elections have consequences. That was done under a Democrat governor, Democrat House, and a Democrat Senate. And so people say to me so often, well, Don, the logic, it doesn't make sense. No, it does not. But because of the way Washington is run, the OEMs caved in, and now we're stuck trying to figure it out. Our difficulty is this, and you all are experts, and you know this firsthand. We have lots of cars sitting a lot that people don't want. Now, at the same time, EVs are not going to go away. There is a place for them in our world for sure. They're fun to drive. I've been a Corvette guy.
There is a place, but it's not going to ever be 100%, 90%, 80%.
Correct.
It's going to be 10%.
The world at the end of the day will be ICE, internal combustion engine. It'll be EV. It'll be hybrid. It'll be hydrogen, and something that an 8th grader is developing and thinking about while he or she is sitting in class right now. Right. And in 15 years, we'll come out with something different. Mm-hmm. And so be it, as it should be. But I will say one thing. This can kind of hurt to hear it a little bit. People tell me all the time, the customers don't want EVs. They're not asking for them. They don't want them. I've had the great fortune, blessing, and experience of spending 45 years in the auto industry. We've always sold you that which we have, that which is in the pipeline or on the lot. So don't give me the line, customers don't want it. Hell, we sold you Chryslers when they were terrible, and we sold them anyway because we had to. So, ladies and gentlemen, if we got EVs in the lot, get excited about it because they're not going to go away. They're not going to disappear. Let's sell them with some enthusiasm.
That is a good point. That is a good point. I sit there, I'm giggling. I'm like, I've sold Hyundais in Detroit, so I know what you mean.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go to the Duchess of Productivity. What is the nagging issue?
You know what? It's funny, but the nagging issue is the EVs, and really coming up with different strategies, because to Don's point, and I've laughed about this for the last couple of years. They said, well, when today happens, which I said duh, because we all knew it was going to happen. I said this idea that manufacturers think they don't need dealers is going to go out the window, because to Don's point, the one thing dealers have always done is said, give me a challenge, put the stuff on my shelf, and we'll sell it. We will sell it. Now they're going to have to continue to find ways to make it affordable for more consumers than today. That's probably the biggest issue that I have. It's not even so much that it's an EV. I could get some consumers to probably make that switch, but the average cost of the EVs on my ground.
Affordability.
It's north of 70 grand, right?
Affordability.
The problem with the EV sale right now, the supply and demand issue really actually generates from the fact that they are too expensive. Now, that's not just on my EVs. During the COVID time, most of the manufacturers said, well, hey, if I can only build this many cars, I'm going to build the top trim line of those cars, right? So here's how many cars were in. So 90% of the vehicles that were sent to the dealership were the most expensive trim line in any given model.
Yes.
As I sit here today, that's still what is kind of getting pushed to the dealership.
Woman is a friggin' genius.
So we need to, we really need to pivot and understand that our consumers' biggest thing on their mind is affordability. They cannot afford, as people are getting forced back into the office, they have to pick up a second car payment now. Well,
you're the marketing director for how many stores?
14.
14
if the
stores.
Average car payment today is $750, and the average household needs 2 cars, you are talking about $1,500 in car payment at a time where inflation's out of control. The majority of consumers can't afford that.
It's the same as most people's mortgage.
Correct. So
food prices are up.
They can't afford it. So the pivot that needs to start happening, because there is no used car manufacturer. I mean, I tried. I've called them. I said, please give me 10 more 2003 white Camrys with only 3,000 miles. And they just, I can't find them. So because that doesn't exist, the manufacturers really need to focus on affordability first. We need to get back to give me the lowest trim level. Give me an opportunity to get that customer in. And then to Dawn's part on the EVs, give me ways to make it affordable. And if that means you've got to give me that aggressive 24-month lease, so be it. And they're starting to.
We need leases. We definitely need leases.
They're starting to. And I think EV leases are the way out of the supply and demand problem. I think it's a good way on an affordability issue, because you can give me a rebate, a $7,500 rebate on a 24-month lease goes a lot further than an 84-month purchase, right? So if we can get some aggressive leases on these EVs and really make them affordable, and then get the OEMs to pivot and start giving me all entry-level trim levels to, not all, but, make it affordable as much as possible. That is what's weighing on the stores. And then with the EVs, we're starting to get strategic about our marketing. We have to look at where can I find maybe a higher demand with a lower supply. So maybe I've got to go out and market to do that. Like, you've got to do the things you got to do that is not maybe the norm to help get us back into whack. And the good news is that Farley and everybody else is starting to say, shoot, we got to pivot because these things are aging,
Even Farley pivoted, quit it.
Correct. So they're pivoting. And so what we've got to do now is just deal with the mess that is sitting on the lots today, and know that coming down the pipe, it's going to be cleaner, right? What's coming is going to be better. It's going to be better balance. It's going to be understood. We've got the data now to back it up. But what are we going to do with the stuff on our lots today? That is the burning issue we have today.
Okay, Miss Bobbie Herron.
Hi.
Tell me what's going on with you. What's the burning issue besides the eclipse?
Man, well, the eclipse was amazing in totality.
Okay,
I loved it. Thanks for asking. A lot of things are going on, but I want to piggyback a little bit off of what April just said, because I don't want us to forget that the interest rates are completely out of hand right now. The average interest rate for a new car loan last month was over 7%. For a super prime new car, it was 5.64. We need help so that we can move this inventory, and we need the ability to be able to offer a customer a real response.
More than half of our customers have a credit score under 600.
Right. And under 600, the average new car rate was over 12%. And the thing is, we don't know when it's going to get better, right? Mm-hmm. We are doing a customer a disservice by giving out information, and a lot of dealerships do this. We've all seen it happen. You know, oh, well, look, you pay your car payment for a year, your credit's going to come up, it's going to do this, you're going to be able to refinance.
No, that doesn't happen. And Bobbie,
It's
guess
totally
what
not.
else? Guess what else?
What?
The average car on the street is out there for 14 years. Customers are not buying, they're not buying new cars, they're keeping their old ones. Matter of fact, they're buying out their leases. They're not renewing a lease. Go ahead.
Which makes that used car factory even thinner.
I would love to see the strong lease programs come back. I'm a huge advocate for leasing, both on the behalf of the customer and the dealership. A massive advocate for it. And it's really, really waning right now. But we have to be able to give people the ability in an uncertain society with uncertainty when it comes to income, to different, all different things. I'm not going to go political at all. We know my policy on that. What I will say is we have to be able to build some certainty in an uncertain world if we think we're going to be able to move vehicles that people actually want off the lot, forget about the ones that they don't, that are overpackaged or overhyped, that they're not interested right now. And in order to do that, we're going to have to get real strategic with marketing, with the stuff that we're doing internally in the store, and with the opportunities that we have to talk to people. So
okay, there's another news story that I really want to introduce into this.
Yeah.
Guess what? Stair steps are back.
I saw that.
Oh, Nissan. Who would have guessed?
Of course they are.
Nissan, one of their most popular selling vehicles, the Nissan Rogue, is stacking up on the lots, and they're all of a sudden stair steps are back. We've been fighting stair steps for years. Let me let Don Hall jump in on this one.
We seem like we've heard this story before and over again, but let me deviate for a nanosecond if I can. I appreciate what you all have been saying. I'm often reminded of a conversation I had years ago, and it's applicable today for everybody that's listening today, in my opinion. Times are tough right now, for sure. Times are different than what we experienced through COVID, for really sure. Rates are up, payments are, for those of us who've been in this business for a length of time, it is hard for me to even hear the word that the average payment is approaching $800 a month. That is just unfathomable for me. But one thing I learned a long time ago, even in the worst of times, people are buying new used cars and trucks. They're buying vehicles. The question is, what makes your organization different than everybody else in the marketplace? What makes your salespeople different than others in the marketplace? What kind of prospecting do they do, and where do they do it, and how do they do it? And what kind of commitment do they have to our industry so that people know that they're not always looking over the shoulder for another job, but they're excited to be where they're at and doing what they're doing? Because I can assure you, in the worst of times, and 45 years I've experienced the worst of times, even the worst of times, the good ones sold vehicles. And the question is, these are not pleasant times, much of which we cannot control. We cannot. It is what it is. It's the cards we've been dealt. The issue is, can we remain positive and get through it? And we get through it by the way we control ourselves and the way we conduct our business and the model of which we go out and do things. Let me finish one other quick comment. Different subject, but along the same lines. I recently had a longtime friend call me. She works in the Virginia General Assembly. She and her husband were buying a car. I said, great, congratulations, I can help you. Oh no, we already went to a dealership a couple weeks ago. Great, what happened? Well, we went back 2 weeks later and they said, look, we're gonna have to charge you an additional $4,000 because this is a high demand car and they're not available. This is after 2 weeks of negotiating a price. And oh, by the way, we have $3,000 worth of stuff we want to sell you, from etching to other things. I won't name companies as well. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the kind of stuff the FTC is killing us on. We've got to treat people the way we want to be treated, which is full disclosure, sell the attributes of what you're doing and why, not kind of the last minute, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, sign here, we're going to take care of it. All of it's right here. Don't worry about it. Your payment's only $828 a month. And we've got to change the way we think and approach our customer base and make sure they're exposed to what's going on and they understand, and then they can make good, responsible decisions with our menu selling available today.
You know, the CFPB, the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, they're out there right now prosecuting dealers. I mean, they're all over the place. and we got to be really careful because they're out there. The new laws, as Jim Ganther pointed out a couple weeks ago, the new laws are in effect. They're just not enforcing the new laws. Mm-hmm. The new laws are about to outlaw addendum stickers and.
Oh, they're watching. They're not. We might not be seeing enforcement, but they're in it. That's a huge thing. And for crying out loud, at what point do you stay like that situation you just explained with the $4,000? Even if it wasn't illegal, the cost to your dealer, even if that's who you are and you don't care about the customer experience, the cost to your dealership to treat a consumer like that, to renegotiate at the end, to put $4,000 in profit on one car over the potential relationships that are built both in service and in sales is stupid. It is stupid. Here we are on a national show talking about your dealership, only Don's nicer than we are and didn't give the dealer's name because I would love to be able to talk about
I'm going to call it hashtag COVID crap, and you can't do that anymore.
Hashtag don't be a dick. What is wrong with you people?
Amen, sisters. I'm with you.
Crying out loud. It's ignorant.
Well, ultimately,
it all look like this. The good news is, if you're a competitor to a dealership like that, it should be really easy to be able to take the opportunity from their business and be able to convert it into yours. If I were you guys, I would be looking at your competitors' Facebook reviews, things like that, and look for people who say things like that about the dealership.
Well, let's go back to stair steps again.
Yeah. Well, so we can pull back, and I know Nissan and Ford is also doing on the F-150 some VG bonuses there, but what I think is going to be super interesting, and I know somebody mentioned earlier about working and training with the sales team, but on both sides of this new car, trying to move what we have, whether it's stair step or inventory that's not as desirable for whatever reason, into April's unicorn factory. She had said a 2023 Camry with 3,000 miles. So someone had commented a 2003. I was like, oh yeah, no, that would definitely be something out of this world. But it falls back every time, and you guys know I always say it, to the management team. If you are not investing in your management team on how they're coaching and training, how they are sourcing used car inventory, because if you are leaning on the auction for that, and I think what we were looking at NADA's data for last year, and still 60-some% of used car inventory, whether it's purchased from a consumer or trade-in, is still coming from your consumer database, not the auctions, which is great. But I think there's so much meat left on the bone there. So if we're trying to find people payments that are less than $760 or $75 a month, we have to get creative. And that starts with your management team, not your sales team.
Now, the other story that popped up in the snooze and Detroit Free Press and all the other news organizations out there, the other story that popped up is Tesla is cutting prices dramatically. Inventory is stacking up. Authorities are now saying that Tesla is no longer considered a luxury car. Oh yeah, Tesla is not considered a luxury car by people that are supposed to know what you're talking about.
Now that luxury makers, OEMs actually make competitive models to them, that doesn't surprise me. Now that our true luxury manufacturers are making competitive.
That, and I think that Tesla, actually, I give them props because I think Tesla is forward thinking about the fact that if they want to be in the EV game, they've got to have affordable options. It all comes back to affordability. And I think they are the one that are saying, hey, if we don't want to combat China, we don't want to combat these other people, we have to give the American public an affordable option. So my guess is that came from Tesla themselves, and they're pushing that narrative, and smart to do so.
So the next move you watch, the next move will be this. We have decided, after thinking about it, observing and acknowledging, we're going to create a franchise system because it's a way to move product. And we're going to have a franchise system. From day one, I met with Tesla early in their creation. From day one, it was always ultimately something that was never off the table. They knew that in time, that when they got mass production and it got in a competitive marketplace, they'll need the dealers to floor plan, to figure out how to sell them when nobody will buy them, yada, 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 and so forth. So I am not shocked. If anything, this is going to prove one more time the value of the franchise system, and the young men and women nationwide who go out and sell cars for a living and own franchises. This is the value of our system. We can move iron when it has to be moved, whether it's by battery or by gasoline, it doesn't matter. The franchise system is the way to sell cars and trucks.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But Don, as you recall, Don, there was a campaign, I guess campaign. I don't want to tread on it. True Car, and we united as dealers, and I see that for a while there, people weren't fighting Tesla. Tesla had a free pass.
Jim, one of the blessings I love about this industry with so much is the fierce owners of these large dealerships and dealerships throughout the Commonwealth, throughout the country rather, is that we have this belief that we're resilient no matter what happens. And by and large, we are. And so we don't worry about other things going on. We worry about our world, as they should. Now, part of my role is to worry about the rest of the world that impacts your world in operating your dealerships and so forth. But at the end of the day, I think most people are locked on to doing what they've got to do, not thinking about the Teslas of the world. But Tesla was smart. I watched them. We fought them in Virginia in the courts. I spent millions of dollars. We fought them hard. Most of my peers were letting them come in and say, we're going to let just Tesla and only Tesla have 5 locations in our state, and that's it. Well, then
they gave them a free pass.
Say that again, Jim?
They gave them a free pass.
They did.
Most of your peers are idiots.
But part of it is, well, first of all, look, my DNA and my ink on my body says United States Marine Corps. That's part of my mentality. In other words, I'm a fighter. That is who I am. I don't live to be liked. I live to win. And it's about winning. And so at the end of the day, I think dealers have understand the game now, understand it. And that's why it's important to be involved in your associations, to make sure you are being aggressive and assertive in the right places. We can't fight every fight, but many of which we can. Back to stair stepping. The danger, as we all know, is there'll be have and there'll be have-nots. They've never been fairly done. They're not going to be fairly done. Dealers ought to do what they've always done in the past, which is continue to object to them, even those who are benefactors of them. But at the end of the day, they're never fair. And ultimately, at the end of the day, Mr. Manufacturer, you keep saying we want consumers to have a great buying experience. Well, my answer is then treat us right, and we can treat the customers right. Do not play games with us, and we'll make sure they walk out the happiest people who have ever bought a car or truck when they come into my dealership, because I have a great experience with my OEM. And finally, Toyota and Lexus, not perfect, but by far are the best when it comes to dealing with their dealer body. God bless them. I'm grateful for them. Their example, leading from the front. No, they're not perfect. And yes, they make some mistakes, but at least they acknowledge and they attempt to do right by the dealers, which means their customer vis-a-vis the dealer has a great experience dealing to their ultimate end purchaser, the customer back home in our communities.
I want to get a digital billboard on the side of a blimp and fly that clip over every OEM headquarter offices, Don.
We could do that with a Geo. We could do that.
I know. I just want to be dramatic. So the blimp, I think, will be a little extra.
Don is a formidable speaker.
Don really is. He's good. Don's good.
Don has always been a formidable speaker.
I love my job, my career. I came from the worst of circumstances long ago as a young man, and the auto industry is a business that embraced me, and I owe it everything I've got as long as I'm able to do it in a way that's effective. Thank you.
I love that.
I'll tell you.
I want to throw something in here off of what Don was talking about there and what we were talking about before with Elon Musk. I won't go too deep into it, but I just don't want it to get lost. We say, maybe they're not seen as a luxury car service anymore, but Elon Musk is brilliant when it comes to a lot of things. And one of the things that Tesla was focused on prior to this first quarter was creating a low cost, or what they call a low cost, an under $25,000 price point vehicle. Just recently, it was reported by Reuters that was scrapped. And so before you think, oh, well, it's because of all this inventory and these declining prices. No, it's not. According to Reuters, Elon Musk came out and gave the directive to his whole company that all focus now goes to robo-taxis. That's where everything is going in focus. I'm not surprised at all that they were cutting costs to get rid of inventory. I'm not surprised that it would be because there's an inventory buildup on the lot, but we have an inventory buildup on the lot all the time. That's why we have Stop program. We have things like that are happening. The focus there, I think, is going to have a huge
shift. Bobbie, wait a second. The pendulum has swung, Bobbie, all the way from having no inventory and charging ridiculous high prices. Now we're trying to find ways to give them away. We're trying to rebate, stair steps. Look at all the things that are happening.
Oh, it's massive. It's like, how many times did we say on the show, how many times did we go out and consult dealers and say 2-3 years ago, hey, don't forget the trade cycle is 2 to 3 years. You're burying people in the vehicles that they're in right now. And we're applauding the gross profit on that. And yet right now we're trying to take people
out. The trade cycle is not 3 years. Where did you get that? Where did you even fantasize that the trade cycle stopped being 3 years at 60-month financing?
Well, we still operate in.
I got out of fantasy rule. That's exactly the truth. It is just interesting to me. I'm not.
Month loan is upside down for 3.8 years. 48-month financing was the last time we had a 3-year trade cycle, and that was 1976.
Listen.
Excuse me.
Listen. The trades that the vehicles that people were buried in our industry when there was an inventory shortage, now you're going to feel it tenfold as people are beginning to trade them in, because the interest rates combined with that are going to be difficult. And my point off of that is not even the trade cycle or any of those things. It's what Don said, which is the only difference between you and your competitor is the experience that you offer in your dealership and the communication they have with your teams. That's it. You have the same inventory. You have the same ability to do trades. You have the same ability to finance. Most of you have the same building because the OEM made you. You're not special. I know that hurts people's feelings. You're not special. But if the people that you hire and the teams that you lead and the processes and procedures you put in place and hold people accountable for are, and you're not doing things like renegotiating a deal by $4,000 on one car, you know what that cost you? That one car deal that you just did is going to cost you in community and in profits and in car deals. It's mind-boggling that people will step over dollars to pick up cents. It makes no sense to me at all. I just think it plays off of all the things that we look at and we talk about.
I think
go ahead.
I was just going to say, as a short little point to that, I think for me in today's economy, the scarier part of what Bobbie just said in reporting that Tesla's shifting research and development to robo taxis, as we look at the possibility of people not being able to afford to have a car.
I wouldn't ride in a robo taxi, would you?
I mean, I don't even know what one is, but I mean, if you read between the lines,
I would absolutely do it.
Jennifer, my brain went the exact same place.
I know. I was like,
my kids drive in Waymos all the time now. They are a fan of the Waymo because it costs half of an Uber. They don't have to tip, so it doesn't cost that much. And I'm over here doing the math saying, okay, if I'm a normal human and if I have a $750 car payment, I'm probably paying at least $200 a month in insurance and at least $200 a month in some sort of fuel for that vehicle, right? That's $1,150. If I take $1,150 and I divide that by 30 days a month, that's $38 I'm spending for transportation a day. And that's if I only have one car. Now, if the majority of my driving is me just going to and fro work and it costs $10 each way for a robo taxi, then I'm cutting my cost in half.
Almost in half.
You're going to get in a robo taxi with no driver.
Okay, look, I haven't done it yet, but
we're seeing the Uber drivers out there. They're way worse than robot would be, for crying out loud. I've almost
Waymo's already laid that grand out, and they're already doing it here in Phoenix. Waymos are everywhere. They've been around. People use them all day, every day, and the more there are out there, the less the cost is going to be. And if people can now be working while they're driving for 15 minutes and my cost is half, I think that's got to be something that's just got to be on our radar, Jim. I'm not saying everybody's going to use it, just like not everybody's going to buy an EV, but I think it's something we got to consider on our radar when we talk about affordability, which I think
sometimes I ask questions to which I know the answers.
I think
I just like to feisty up the situation, but
I think anytime Elon Musk does something that's like within his wheelhouse, we should pay attention to it because something is coming from it, right? Whether you like the guy or you don't like the guy, he's a brilliant businessman who's building crazy things. Like,
I've got another story. Got another one.
All right, hit us with it.
Okay. It looks like the Ram 1500 Chrysler, they're thinking of retiring. Now, this has been one of the best-selling. It was started as a Dodge, before it was even Ram as a separate brand. And at the time, Sergio spun it off as a separate brand, and I think he was thinking of selling Ram and Jeep to a third entity. I think he was planning on the exit strategy, and he died. But that was just my thinking. Let me ask you a question. They're saying that the Ram 1500 is too old. So is the Expedition. So is the Navigator. So is the Tahoe. All these vehicles have been on the same chassis with different technology inside, but the same chassis. The Expedition's 30 years old. Think about it. They haven't changed the body style on an Expedition. They've changed the trim and the tail lights, but it's the same vehicle.
Right.
Other than that, there's a lot of new technology inside.
So Stellantis doesn't want to invest to keep up with the F-150 and the Silverado and the Sierras. And I mean, the Nissan Titan is a great truck. So they just don't want to keep up when it comes to this. I mean, we are seeing, Ford's putting those, stair steps on the F-150s. We're seeing a lot of shifts and changes in that truck market, but that's really shocking that they're even considering that.
That to me is just, still in all, first of all, Ram is a great truck.
It is.
I mean, Ram, with Ford's quality problems, right now it might be a better truck than Silverado or F-150. The Ram might be the best truck on the market.
Don't go blaming Ford's quality problems on Chevrolet.
Chevrolet's got their own problems.
I know. Look, we got our own issues. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Look. Hall's biting his lip.
Is he?
Go ahead.
When you talk about old, I can say as a guy who was a couple years away from being 70 and a guy who's in his 70s, as the two oldest guys in this call today, man, I love old. Old is good, baby.
Old is great. I'm only 77.
Old means it's reliable. We know how to do it, and people like it, and it's all good by me. So,
yeah, I tell you what, I tell people all the time, I'm only 77.
You just told me that the other day.
I think OEMs, though, changing things. I mean, it's not for me to tell them what they should do or not do. Hopefully they study the marketplace and they know. I think you all made the point earlier so well, and that is regardless of what you do or don't do, it better be affordable. And if you're not real careful, you're going to cause, we've already had it happen at some level, but people to fall out of love with having vehicles, meaning now it's just a mode of transportation, and that's all it is. And when it becomes a mode of transportation, then we're not going to spend extra money getting the things that excite us because now they're just a matter of getting us from A to B. I will tell you that at one point I thought for sure that I can't think of the name of it. Where we paid companies X amount per month and we could change.
Subscriptions.
I thought the subscription program, I personally thought, well, that was a great idea because someone would let me change.
What a dumbass idea that was.
But it didn't, none of this stuff survives. And so I'm less likely to overreact.
Hall, I'm ashamed of you.
Yeah,
you thought that was a great idea?
Oh, I thought it'd be a fun idea for Don Hall.
Oh, no, Don. I mean, mathematically, it didn't make sense.
Oh, I didn't study it from that. I just said,
You are
"Damn,
not
I
a
could drive a
dumbass.
pickup
You
truck
did
this
not think
weekend.
that was a great idea.
No,
I thought I could drive a pickup truck this weekend, a convertible next weekend."
I can see Don's point as I'm looking down at my driveway with 4 different cars in it. It would have been helpful for some, type of shift there.
I would have loved to participate in it.
One of the things I just want to see Jim get a little bit more riled up. Did you see the SEC filing for Farley's compensation?
Oh my God.
For anyone who didn't see that, I just want to make sure that we talk about
How much
this.
does Farley make?
So he received total compensation in 2023 of $26,470,000
Oh my God.
for the year. And we're talking about Americans and they're, I think it says 312 to 1 of what the average Ford employee.
How much is
So,
Ford losing
Jennifer,
right now?
So, Jennifer, we ask why the unions are fighting and doing what they're doing. They're outraged because of what they do. And we're perceived in the auto industry as making this huge amounts of money and so forth.
I know.
But this is why we have the problems we have these days and why they keep agreeing to all these union contracts. They've got no other choice because they do foolish things. Nobody is worth that kind of money. You can't say, well, he earns it. BS.
He earns it.
How much have they lost, Don? They lost
Obviously
$4
not on
billion
the
just on EVs. $4 billion. He's building this battery plant that's biggest boondoggle in the universe. I mean, what has he done worth $26 million?
Well, and it's worse than that.
Probably something we don't know he's done.
It's worse than that.
Briggs is going to dump part 2 on us.
Well, it's worse than that because Ford actually itemized from its 5 top executives in this SEC filing, it's almost $80 million in executive compensation. So not
How
just
many
for
people?
$6 million. That's ridiculous. Their top 5 execs took home $80 million.
So why
And how
don't they
much
get,
did they
they should
lose?
be on a mini pay plan for every unit that is sold.
We should stair
Like
step
a
her.
real, let's put them on a stair step and a pay plan where they get a mini for every car that's sold, and then we'll be rowing in the same direction, right?
It's just because, and I think, April, it was you saying earlier that someone has to help. Somebody has to help us. And we're talking about all of this constriction with the consumers and constrictions in the dealership and constrictions with FTC regulations. And we have these fat cats not feeling it when everyone else is.
Yep.
So let me tell you what they do. They surround themselves with board members who also run big publicly traded corporations. They serve in each other's boards, and they make sure that they have all the perks and benefits and the monies. We have, and it's existed since the beginning of time, a society of have and have nots. No matter how well each of us do on this call today, and we're above average in incomes, I'm certain of that, we are a have not in the world that these folks come from.
Right.
And the irony is they really have not developed or grown. If Elon Musk makes what he makes, bravo, because Elon Musk took the risk and did it and managed to convince the market to invest in him, bravo. Jim Farley has done none of that, as many other CEOs have done. Right time, right place, right look, right words out of their mouth, right educational background, and then we're doing it. It is part of my concern as a society where we are, and then the average person just hunkers down and says, well, I hate America, I hate this, I hate that, and they put up with it. But it's a shame because now you're paying for it with the average new car today being, I'll just round up and say 50K. Sad.
Yeah.
I'm curious, was it, because I haven't looked at this stat, is it equal to an increase or a decrease from last year for him?
It is, let's see here.
I haven't looked at it yet, and I'm curious,
so the SEC filings it doesn't have the comparison
It
data.
doesn't have year over year.
Right. We could.
Well, I thought maybe we would have one from last year, though. I'm just saying, does anybody know the answer? I don't know the answer, and I'm curious.
Let's see. Oh,
Everybody-
well, overall compensation for the executive team is up by $9 million.
Okay.
I can see that, but I can't see his.
The irony is the Japanese have always paid their executives in the United States of America considerably less money. It's created some problems over the years because of that, but they've always made a lot less. And yet the customer experience with the dealers and with the customers' ultimate end purchasers has always been really great. And it's sort of sad that we're rewarding oftentimes behavior that makes no sense. But it is the world we live in today. And, you know,
I'm a fan of a commission-based pay plan for everybody in life, for everything. Everybody that lives in my life, in my tribe, in my circle, in my teams works on commission of some sort. Does that mean that it's a volume-based or a gross-based or what it is? No, it means that an incentive tied to what motivates you to achieve what the intended goal is how everything works. I had my spousal alimony support that I paid, not the other way around, set up on a commission pay plan so I didn't get a headache every time I needed to fly and go somewhere to work. My kids have been on commission-based plans since they were little. Everybody in my life lives on that. I don't see any incentive in paying somebody for the idea of what a job is supposed to look like. And instead, I believe that you pay people based on the KPI and the outcome of the job that is intended for them to do.
So let me give you a different twist if I can for a second,
Yeah.
because I've been speaking about this for a long time and I get criticized for it, but that's okay. And that is, we live in an environment in the auto industry where the OEMs measure us on a 30-day basis.
Mm-hmm.
We therefore measure all of our people on a 30-day basis.
Ridiculous.
We pay on a 30-day basis.
Ridiculous.
Yes. And as a result, I do desperate things when I know I'm looking at a horrible month.
Yep.
And I will say and do what is necessary to close the deal, to get them to sign the contract or whatever it is. I have said from day one, pay a reasonable, respectable salary with bonus opportunities, with great vacation schedules, retirement contributions, medical insurance, and you will have a workforce that is going to be very professional and very good at what they do. And yet we tend to just go right back to what we've always known best. No way in this world they're going to live and die, hero this month, a zero the next.
You know, it's stupid. The stupidest thing about it, because when I say I'm on a commission plan, I mean, I still believe in there being a bonus, but here's the stupidest thing about creating a 30-day structure. Nobody gets paid that way. Nobody does bills that way. Nobody does anything that way. And what you've done is you've taken somebody who may or may not be hitting that quota, that number, and you've turned their mindset into an inability or an unreasonable logic that they're not going to do it. You can't lose for 30 days at the 30-day mark and then have to wait 30 days to win if you want to motivate a team. People aren't motivated like that. You have to have daily and weekly opportunities to win, and you have to have a reset button so that you can continue to. Otherwise, you find that you have people who excel for a couple days and then they get in their own head and they go, I'm not going to hit this. And all of a sudden they're waiting until next month to accomplish stuff. Why would we even do that? And I get excuses all the time because, Don, I take a lot of heat for this because I speak on it too and promote it in my stores. If I have one more person say to me, I'm not going to develop a customized pay plan per person or per motivation or pay out more often than or figure out anything more than, because do you know how pissed my controller will be or my sales manager has to figure that? Are you kidding me right now? That is the most ignorant thing I've ever heard. People are not motivated in 30-day cycles.
So if I can, somebody just made the comment about 30-day structure forces people to operate with a greater sense of urgency. No, it doesn't. It forces people to be desperate and to do dumb things. Mm-hmm. If you're not motivated, and as a manager, your job is to motivate. Your job is to get people excited about what they do. And the end result of doing a good job is you get well compensated. The goal is not big compensation. The goal is to do a damn good job, and then I get paid well for doing a damn good job. That sense of, well, greater sense of urgency. No, the urgency is we all have bills, families to take care of. And
that urgency,
sense of urgency.
That I think what he means by that, I don't know who said it, but I want to look at it another way, which might be that it's that urgency that we apply at the end of the month, like, oh, the month is about to end, we have this whole thing. So that's I want to management. That if that's the intention, we created a nightmare scenario with consumers by pushing things at the end of the month. You don't need urgency at the end of the month to accomplish something. If a goal ends tomorrow or an incentive ends tomorrow, the urgency is already there because that is tomorrow. The only difference there is that we have taught consumers, employees, and teams that tomorrow is always the first day of the month. You are always on a reset. It's crazy to me. And I employ in my dealerships that I consult with on leadership and on teams to install pay plans that are just like that are weekly and biweekly and are customized based on the motivation of the team member. And it's highly effective, proven results.
Well, and I'll flip it past that to consumers.
Oh, Jennifer, you're freezing.
I think that's freezing. On a 90-day
I was like,
cycle,
man.
If you were working your consumer base, your database, and your opportunities effectively and efficiently by the type of lead source that they were coming in and your database outbound in a 90-day sales goal, you would never be concerned about not hitting your numbers at the end of the month.
I want to hit another subject before we get off. I want to hit one more subject.
Is it almost over? Oh, wow.
Yeah, we'll get down to the end of it. I see that one dealer is investing in classes in high school, credited classes for auto techs. Yeah. I've been trying to get dealers to do this for many years. You know, to get with the high schools. I think the manufacturers ought to do it.
I can't talk about that.
Manufacturers ought to subsidize local high schools that have classes, even supply the instructors. And
we do that in Arizona.
Techs are a severe shortage, and now we're getting into electric vehicle techs. I mean, we're going to need tech, and electric vehicles are not repairable. They're just not repairable in the ways that we know. It's going to be more high-tech repairs, but on the keyboard. Don, what do you think?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm a little bit of an expert on this subject because associations typically have these kind of programs. For years, it was called the AYES program, and it's a youth education system program. Career and technical education in this country right now is at an all-time high, and that's a good thing. There's an understanding in Capitol Hill and Washington and the state legislatures that we need more young people to serve in various career and technical education fields, number one. Two, the problem we have too is the dealerships. They're part of the problem. And let me tell you why they are. We've heard it firsthand. Well, I don't mind having some techs in here, young people that are apprenticed, but boss, they cost me money and I got to spend time with them. And then, ready for this? We lose a lot of these young people because they want to go work at the quick lubes because they'll get paid some money and it's easier. We're not willing to invest in them. Now, I've got exceptions to the rule, but again, that short-sighted mentality that's sort of our curse and it's our blessing, it's both. But the fact of the matter is this: we need young people to be in our business, but they want to work, again, in irregular hours. They want to be in air-conditioned shops, well-heated shops in the winter. Windows. I mean, we need to treat it differently. For Jim, in your early days, in my early days, you know, service departments were arm's length away. That's the back end. We don't talk to those people. That's the back end. And unfortunately, some of that mentality still exists at some level. But without young people at all parts of our business wanting to come in, we got a problem. Because as much as we all like to work forever, the truth is that sometime it'll be our day to check out and move on to something greater, afterlife or whatever. But at the end of the day, we've got to do a better job with young people coming in our business. And it starts with the dealerships. And by the way, Ford was one of the first OEMs to pull out of the career and technical education programs. They pulled their money out of it. So we talk about these.
Somebody had to pay Farley.
That's going to be everyone now. Good job, Jennifer.
To the effect of every Ford dealer service absorption numbers. Thanks a lot, Farley.
I want to just throw something in. They're part of this topic I can't talk on with an NDA on something, but I want to throw this out. Where there's this fear with young people across our industry and in a lot of industries, I want us to also remember that they're vocal and we fear that we shouldn't. We need these young people in our dealerships, in our industry. We need them voting. We need them participating in our dealers associations. We need them wanting to work on our teams. And we need to be willing to learn how to lead people like that and to bring them up in it if we actually want to substantiate real change. These kids, as we call them, we say they're kids. These kids are making things happen every day that none of us are doing. And
everybody's a kid today.
They're going out and doing amazing things when they believe in it. And if we're afraid that they won't believe in us, then maybe we have some real things to fix.
Well, and I love, it looks like Jim Shorkey's on with us again this week. And I love the comment he just gave, because there are a lot of groups that are doing this, whether it's a scholarship to actual technical colleges to be, I know Tom Wood was huge with that. April, I know you guys have some scholarship programs, or this internal training, which is fantastic. And those are the operators who are going to come out ahead when you're looking at that. Look, when I came up in management, it didn't really matter what was on the bottom of the, well, it did, right, of the P&L for the front of the house. So long as all of my numbers were there and my service departments, my fixed departments were running efficiently, the front was gravy. But I talk to more and more people now. I don't even want to tell you, I was talking to this 5th generation and I asked him his service absorption. I almost threw up. Like,
you know, Jennifer, it's kind of interesting because I actually had a state grant pay me to train car salesmen persons in Louisiana. Really? Louisiana State paid me a state grant, and so did California. Huh. I had state grants in California and Louisiana to train car salespeople.
So here in Arizona, we have this program called EVIT, EVIT, and you can look at, Google it. It's evit.edu. Anywho, in high school, they have these programs for the majority of the high schools offer EVIT, and so anybody who wants to look into these technical places through health sciences, industrial trades, service industry, and tech and design, and there's a plethora of stuff, they can get their high school credit. And they start getting their education in those places. And then they introduce them when we partner with them. We get some of those kids that are coming in and starting to do, some of the lube stuff on the weekends or at night on some of our night shifts. They're starting to mentor. They're starting to figure out, is this the job in my career that I actually want to take on? And then if it is, then we can look at the scholarships to continue that education and get them to the finish line, help them with basic tools, whatever the case may be. And these are the waves of the future. I'm proud of Arizona for a lot of the things they've done educationally over the last few years, because when I was pregnant with my son, who's, by the way, graduating college next month, I was so nervous about what school he was going to go to. That was the thing I was actually most nervous about before he even breathed his first breath of air. But now Arizona's come a long way with the choice that, parents get to choose what school their kids go to. They have programs like EVIT. I think there's a lot of foundational stuff they're doing, and those are the programs you should be looking into. And if your state doesn't already have a program, get involved with your Don Hall, get involved with your community to try to put these programs together, because you don't have to take it on yourself. You can work with your state to actually come up with some of these programs.
I love that you're going to hashtag get involved with your Don Hall. That's going to be my new campaign for getting in with your ADAs. I think that's fantastic. I love that. That's fantastic.
Yes, because a lot of people don't realize that, I don't think they know who their Don Hall even is, but they do exist. And I think that if you get involved with your local people, we're stronger together, so to speak. And I think that there's a lot we can do without having to carry that burden on your own, because it's tough. I mean, as dealers, we are like, wearing 95 hats any given day and trying to take on another thing. While we might think it's important, we might want to put it on the top of our list. If we don't have the time, resources, and energy to do it, it gets scrapped. So, instead say, hey, I've got 2% of time or 2% of money or whatever you can do, and find other people to help put it together. All right, 1 minute. Take us home, Jim.
Real quick before you answer that, Jim, Don, this is why we need to finish the conversation we had last year. This should not be a question that has to come from anybody. They should have a place to go.
He's not in Don's state though.
It doesn't matter.
I know.
Don's one of the most vocal people. It shouldn't be.
Who's the Illinois?
I knew you were going to ask me that. He's somebody newer, so I don't know him. Now I know Bobbie Sparrow very well from Arizona. She's a tiger. But I will tell you that is one of the functions of a state dealer association, is to try to advance our industry on behalf of younger people or older people looking to come into our business. And so, yes, that is correct and appropriate. And there are monies out there for sure. The issue is we've just got to have opportunities and not let these young people get stolen away by quick lubes because we're not willing to make again, we tend to measure everything in short-term cycles in our business. And we got to get away from that a little bit with these young people and realize that they can go on to be great techs. Finally, the head of AYS years ago was one of the manufacturers that was head of it from BMW. And he was a tech out of, I think, Scotland originally, or Ireland, I believe it was, one of those countries. And he went on to be engineering with advanced degrees and head of BMW manufacturing. And he started as a tech because in Europe, they do that. They have trades first, and they kind of then work in through the formal college education routine. And so, again, techs are important, and career and technical education is very important for all of us. We're too busy to do this stuff at home, ladies and gentlemen. So we need people with that background to do it for us because we're busy doing what we do for a living.
Thank you very much, Don. And guess what? We've reached the end of the show. Wave goodbye to the audience, guys.